Okay, so we were introduced by mutual friend Leah C4, and my background is in nutrition. So, but prior to nutrition, my passion and my learning was in the mind-body connection, so mind-body medicine to be specific, and how our thoughts influence our health and affects all aspects of our health, including pregnancy. So what you're thinking or your thoughts in pregnancy very, very much affect the fetus. And this is proven science. I've had the absolute I suppose you could say, honor of working with a geneticist who specializes in what gets passed through the mother genetically, and it's not just eye color and hair color. Our thoughts get passed through the placenta and influence the health of that child down the line, which is absolutely fascinating. So that's really my area of expertise in teaching moms how to have the healthiest pregnancies possible.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I've been also in the mind-body connection and the kind of health field, but my focus is really preparing and empowering women to become pregnant while they're pregnant and as mothers. And I just thought, because I obviously I touch a little bit on nutrition when I teach my Confident Hypno-birthing course, but obviously you go into more detail. Yes, so I just thought it would be a lovely opportunity, seeing as we're on lockdown, to connect and give people more information on what we do.
Yes. So where should we start? Because this is a subject that we could talk about for hours. Yes. I get so many women coming to me before they get pregnant, wanting to get pregnant, and when they do, they go, "What must I eat?" It's like, eat food. Eat lots of food. Stop eating rubbish, because what you eat becomes you, and it's the raw material that is going to put together your baby. And it is an absolute fact that what you eat becomes your cells. And if this fetus is a bunch of dividing cells, your child is what you're eating and what you're thinking and what you are moving or not moving or doing. So it is a massive responsibility, and it's not something most of us think about, because procreation is so natural for not everybody, but for a lot of people. They get pregnant, they don't even know they're pregnant, and they make all these bad choices and then hit a panic. But the magic thing about being human is that the body is geared for survival, and it's geared for health. And if we give it the right tools, it can correct. But knowing this is critical.
Absolutely. When I teach my class, I always say that it's like you're making a car. Once the car's here, it just gets petrol. Not that we like cars, but just to give them the analogy of that, what it's like. Yes. So a couple of girls that I've been working with in this time, they've just said, now that we're at home, we're just eating all the time. And how can I not do that?
Okay, so the thing is, you need to eat, and you need to eat often, but you need to eat the right things. So the first step is not to buy the junk. And I know it's not always easy, because not a lot of people live with other people, and some people want to eat biscuits and chocolates, and they're part of a normal household for a lot of people. And I know for myself, if it's there, I'll eat it. But if it's not there, I'll find something else. So the way around is to, one, get structured. Structure is critical for all of us. Our brains love Pinterest boards for a good reason, because they're neat little boxes, and the brain works like that. It needs to compartmentalize things into time structure, into what we're going to do now, what we're going to do next, and it gives us a sense of control. And in this particular situation, there's no control, because we don't know what's coming tomorrow. We don't know if our businesses are going to survive. We don't know what the hell's going to happen next month. It's a very scary situation to be in. And when the fight flight is turned on in the brain, which it is right now, our instinct is to load up on sugar, because sugar means that we will live longer, because there's glucose. We can run away from a threat. The problem is we can't run anywhere, and that's a big problem. We have to sit. And it's an invitation to say, I'm not going to starve myself or be too rigid, but let's get creative with this food thing. Let's make a project out of finding healthy things, and almost turn it around and make it work for you, but have quite rigid dinner and breakfast and lunch times and stick with those. And if you need snacks in between, stick with those times. Stop what you're doing, make a concerted effort to go and make a production out of what you're eating, even if you're on your own, which is hard, and make it part of what you're doing. And then the temptation to run around and just grab something arbitrarily is much lessened.
It's hard for pregnant women who are kind of go in the flow, and they're like, well, but I don't feel like eating, and I only feel like eating then, and so it is more watery, so it's hard to then be more structured.
So my suggestion would be is to keep a food diary, and it doesn't have to be written. It can be with a photography. There's lots of apps which will prompt you to take photos of what you eat, or you can just take photos with your phone and take a picture every time you put something in your mouth, whether it's an arbitrary snack or a planned meal. And then you can start seeing your patterns, and you can start seeing what your triggers are. So if you are emotionally triggered, you will start recognizing why you ate that thing and what set you off. And just becoming conscious of what you're doing is a huge help, even if you don't have a nutritionist to guide you or to police you or to, keep you in check. You can self-check if you're taking pictures. It's so easy to delete from memory the snack foods that we eat. We grab a packet of chips or something out of the cupboard, and very quickly we forget we did that. And a day later we go, I don't know why I'm putting on weight. I can't remember what I ate. But if you've got a photographic evidence there, it's very quick to go, now I see what I'm doing. Okay, these appear to be my hungry times. These appear to be my trigger times, and start creating again a semblance of control in your life.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So anybody who's joined us, if you have any questions, you're welcome to comment, and then we'll see them. Also, obviously, the big thing with, I know that when I was pregnant, I was a vegetarian through my pregnancy, and at the beginning, I didn't want to see a salad. I could not look at a salad. I was so nauseous, and I remember driving along Jan Smuts Avenue, and I saw things, and I was like, oh, white bread, toasted cheese on white bread. And I didn't eat that, but my body was like, that is what I need. So that I got over that. And then I started, eating real food again.
So what I find as well, and this is not just pregnant ladies, but it is very much enhanced in pregnancy, is the cravings. And the cravings are not it's not a matter of no self-control. It's really not anyone's fault that they have cravings. It's a couple of reasons we have cravings. One is, if you're tired, your body's going to be looking for energy. And if it's going to take time to break down the energy from fats and proteins, and especially vegetables, but you're going to get quick energy and quick serotonin from something sweet. So even white bread, especially cheese and white bread are great brain soothing material, and so our bodies look for quick supplies. Those quick supplies, unfortunately, they trigger the hormones that make us store fat. So they might not have many calories in some cases. You might, if you're insulin resistant, and our hormones fluctuate terribly in pregnancy. If you tend to be insulin resistant and you're craving something like white bread, for example, your hormones are going to switch on fat storage very quickly. It's got nothing to do with calories, because that's going to influence your insulin levels, and your insulin's going to go up, and it's going to increase the risk of gestational diabetes. The other reason we have cravings is because we're not getting in enough foods. We're just not eating enough. So your body is going to go on a scavenger hunt, and it's going to go and create scenarios where this looks good and suddenly this looks appealing. So that those old stories of pickles and peanut butter are actually your body's way of going, I need magnesium. I don't know where I'm going to find it, but we're going to put together a concoction where I can find magnesium. And your brain will make it taste good, because you're needing something that growing baby is needing. I've always said that a growing baby is a bit like, I hate to use the word parasite because it conjures up terrible images, but it is. It's going to suck out your resources, and your brain, being the survivor that humanity or any species is going to drive you to wherever it's going to get resources that enable you to carry on feeding this baby, because that's actually all we're designed to do, is keep the species going. Nature has no need for us further than procreation. Whether you're a cat or a human or a lizard, you're here to just keep the species going. So you've got to be clever and not just, if you understand how the brain works and that it's trying to just help you survive, you'll beat yourself up less.
Yeah. Also, as women, we're very good at making ourselves feel guilty when we do eat the wrong thing. So my advice, and it could be completely contradicting yours, but I just say to women, if they really like, chocolate cake, or they really like, dark chocolate, or if they even like milk chocolate, rather have dark chocolate. So try and swap it out for something else. And if they are going to have it, rather go to the place that they know makes a really lovely chocolate cake.
I agree.
And sit with it. Yes, have it the best. Make sure you have a nice drink with it. Bless it. Even bring that element into it. And make it almost like a ritual. Because then that piece of cake is going to be much better for you than if you're beating yourself up about it and eating it all the time.
Sure, that's exactly the advice I give my clients is if you're craving something, make it the best possible choice and get it over with, and make it so amazing that the craving ends, and then go back to normal eating. And you'll probably find over time you look for it less, because you can have it when you really need it.
Yeah. Nice. Good. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, carry on.
No, and then the other thing someone asked me earlier was just about constipation and how diet can influence constipation.
So constipation is multifold, and in pregnancy it's tricky because your space in the abdominal area is getting crowded. So things don't always work as they should. There's so many reasons for constipation. One is the most common is a lack of fiber. And that's not necessarily things like eating bran and wheat. Fiber comes from vegetables, and there's insoluble fiber, there's soluble fiber. But one of the biggest reasons is an imbalance in gut bacteria. So we need to feed our gut the foods that create food for healthy bacteria to grow. And this is a big deal in pregnancy. There's some very good studies conducted with what happens to the fetus in utero when we get a broad spectrum of healthy bacteria, and how that passes through the placenta and is good for the baby, especially if you're planning a cesarean, you're not planning on going a natural birth. You need to make sure there's enough good bacteria that's going to be passed on onto the baby as well. So not having enough of a balance in the gut is a big cause of constipation. Also not exercising. So those are muscles down there that need to move. There's a physical, like a toothpaste tube. And if you are not used to exercising, or now you're pregnant and you stopped exercising, which I think is a bad idea. I think we should be, yoga is a brilliant way of getting blood supply and oxygen to a fetus, and making you feel better is to keep those lower abdominal muscles moving, because that does encourage movement of whatever you're eating through the colon and exiting. It's a big problem even if you're not pregnant, and can be very, very disheartening. You probably more geared to recommend what to do and what to take. There's pretty much nothing you can take in pregnancy other than your pregnancy multivitamins and omegas and some good bacteria, some good probiotics and prebiotics. So what I would recommend is getting a diverse diet. Very little on the processed foods, very little on the refined carbohydrates, lots of green vegetables, and that usually works. Another problem with people who are constipated is often they're dehydrated. So just making sure you are well hydrated does tend to work, and that you're getting enough dietary fat. So avocados, olive oil, besides the health benefits, are very, very good at keeping the motility happening.
Yeah. If we bring in the emotional side of it, constipation, I find when I'm dealing with pregnant clients and constipation comes up, yes, we work with all of that. But if we look at the emotional, it's about, I want to hold on because I'm scared. So it's about this fear of not wanting to let go. Maybe something's not processed fully yet or digested fully yet and not able to let it go. So there's this thing between trust and fear and yeah. So there's that, which is understandable in pregnancy because again, like we're sitting now, is we are sitting in the unknown.
Yes.
And how can we just be comfortable in the uncomfortable? Which is not easy to say, but not easy to embody.
It's very, very hard to get our collective consciousness around this. This is possibly the most scary and brilliantly engineered social experiment, unwittingly. And we're all finding ourselves in a position where we're getting triggered on every level by each other and the situation. And yeah, it's such an opportunity to question what we are holding on to, what we're not letting go of. It is very hard because you can't run away. And I think, for a lot of my clients as well, there's some deep emotional stuff that we've all been holding on to, but it's so easy to distract yourself with work and just getting out, getting away from home, getting away from the people who trigger you. But now we're stuck with the people who trigger us and our own minds. And it's such a powerful invitation to let the stuff go. And you're not alone. That's, I think, is the biggest message is you're not alone. If you need to talk, there's so many resources. So many people are going through this together with you. And it feels lonely. It feels terrifying. But you don't have to deal with these things alone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So hypno pregnancy, I'm absolutely fascinated. Can you elaborate on your side? What is hypno pregnancy?
So hypno-birthing is a method that I studied many years ago, about 15 years ago. What I've done in the last couple of years, though, is I studied the NLP, same as you, neuro-linguistic programming, and then I've been a yoga teacher for almost 20 years. So what I've done is I've incorporated more and more of the hypnobirthing that I've learned, what really works out of it, and I've included mine. So the great thing about this time, the kind of silver lining for me, besides that I've got lots of petrol in my car, because I haven't really used it much, and the other silver lining is that I've managed to carve out time to work on my own manual. So I'm busy in the process of putting my own manual together, because it's time. I've been wanting to do it for a while, but that's getting it together. So it's really about, it's like an antenatal class, except it's the mind-body connection. So how does the mind and body work? How can you relax the body even when you're under stress or pressure, like in labor? And then also a lot of reframing. So we don't call it a contraction because that is tightening, but we call it an expansion, or a surge, or a wave, because it comes and it goes. So immediately the mind goes, oh, we don't call it pain, we call it that it's pressure, and it's intense, and it's powerful, because again, that is more empowering than pain, because then you're going to go into victim, which again is, contracting emotion, rather than being expanded.
Yes.
So it's a lot of that, obviously empowering them with knowledge of what is labor, the stages of labor, how it can unfold, looking at the consciousness of an unborn, what are babies feeling, experiencing, how can we connect with baby? That's a big part of what I do as well, is connecting with baby.
Okay, that's what I love about NLP is the simple reframe of a word changes the chemistry in the brain, which changes the experience. And the power in just finding another word is quite profound. And a lot of people don't realize that the power is all there. It's theirs it's in their brains. If a facilitator like yourself just says, well, let's call it a surge, and we go, wow, that feels better. It's like riding a wave. And that whole endorphin rush changes in a second. And I think that's just absolutely amazing, because we don't realize the power we have just by changing how we describe a situation. And we can use this for so many different parts of our lives, is, instead of, calling it a fight with a spouse, it's a passionate discussion, for example. Just the reframe changes how we respond to the world and how the world in turn responds to us. It's tricky because we are so used to and habituated in our internal dialogue which is why it's so important to have a facilitator help us change our dialogue. But really, the power is all yours. I think that's just so powerful.
And that's the thing with the neuropathways, is to create new neuropathways. It takes time, and it's got to be done over and over again. And that's why having a facilitator hold that for you in that process is very powerful. Because those those neuropathways are just, happening the same, like walking in grass, the same path over and over. Other work that I also do with women who've had babies, who had traumatic experiences or dissatisfactory births, or even lost children. I do a birth integration, and that really helps them to integrate this experience into their bodies and really to accept it and find peace in their heart about it. And then they're able to, again, create different neuropathways and see the world differently. Words are very powerful. If we even look at the word spelling, the word spelling has got spell in it. It is a spell. That's what words do. And so what spell are you casting with the words that you're using?
Yeah, and that's why a ritual is so important. And I think, a birthing ritual is magical. It turns something that would be sometimes scary and clinical for some people into something that's magical. And again, it's a sense of power and mystery rather than something that's terrifying. How soon would moms come and see you? As soon as they've conceived? How far along do you start seeing?
Whenever people see me, they come and see me. So pre-pregnancy or in pregnancy, whenever they find out. Usually if they've known me before, I'm one of the first people they tell when they're having their second or third, which I feel very, very blessed to be a part of. And then some people only find me when they do the hypno-birthing, which is from 20 weeks onwards. I like them to do closer to 20 weeks than later. Just so that they've got time to do that reframing, to practice, to get their head around possibly changing to a different caregiver, to really have what they want. It's so important that, this might be the only baby they have. We don't know. In this day and age, who knows what's unfolding, is that they want to look back and go, you know what? It was great. However it unfolded, it was perfect. Instead of, I should have got that doula, or I should have done this, or I should have, rather, actually, it was great. Really being empowered, coming from a place of being empowered.
Yes. I see so much nowadays. I can't really talk for how things were 100 years ago, but there's so much fear around birthing and pregnancy. Should we have a natural birth and should we have a cesarean? I was very, very lucky to have a very relaxed gynecologist who said to me, he doesn't know what we'll do. We'll see nearer the time. Let the baby decide what it wants to do. And I didn't realize what a blessing that man was. Sadly, he's not around anymore, but he must have delivered hundreds of children. And by the time it got to my pregnancy, he said to me, don't worry about it. We'll see. Let's wait. Let's wait till we're 34 weeks, and then you can decide, or the baby can decide. And it immediately put me at ease. It was like, it wasn't what will be, will be. And I think we try and control too much in pregnancy. All we should be really worried about or considering is our happiness and the health of our child. And if we can put that as a priority, that nothing really else matters. This is a sacred time to make sure that you're okay and your baby's okay. And that's all, nothing else is relevant. And I really encourage the moms who come see me for nutrition is to let it go and just be there for them and their child. Yes. Not to control everything.
Yeah, I get you on the control, because we're all wanting to be in control, because then we feel safe, and that's where it all comes from. The thing that I find a lot with women, though, is that they are choosing possibly caregivers that don't have their best interest at heart. Your guy, he sounded like he was probably old school.
Very.
And so I like to give couples all the information so they can decide what kind of birth do they want. And then, yes, we do the practice like a soccer game. You practice, and on the day, wherever the ball falls, it falls. And we've also got to be okay with that. And that's where the surrendering and the letting go comes in. And trust.
Yes. I think when it comes to having children, it's an exercise in letting go. From the day they're born, this is another being who you are there for, but you can't control every aspect of their life. And it starts in pregnancy, is learning to, go with it. Don't try and steer the ship every step of the way. And I think, nowadays we don't have the support that we used to when our grandparents were around. There was always big families, and it was never a mystery. Most people had witnessed a birth before they gave birth, or were involved with small children, whether it was looking after them or bringing them up. Grandparents were involved, and a lot of ladies now that come into my practice are largely on their own. Their families have dispersed. They don't live anywhere near their families, their siblings, their parents, and they largely feel terrified and on their own. And it's a big problem, because having a child is a tribal ritual. It should be a family affair. It should be something where you feel supported. So the work you're doing is vital for playing a part in the brain of this person who's looking for the tribe, and it isn't there. We've got to create our own tribes if we don't have a natural tribe. And it's fundamental to having a healthy birth and to having happy children as we go along. It's finding your support structure. You can't do this alone. Yeah. Okay. What would you, I've got a lot of clients who've oddly enough just fallen pregnant right now, and they are in a bit of a state of flux about should they be going out to do the shopping, should they be staying at home, what should they do? The practical advice, which applies to all of us on any given day in the situation, I think should apply to somebody who's pregnant. What is your advice? Have you been getting this question a lot as well?
It's to just keep doing what we've been told and what the evidence shows. And so it's just to really also be mindful and doing what you can. Obviously, for you, it would be eating the foods that will boost your immune system and keep your immune system in check. This might be controversial what I'm about to say, but if you look at how people in America are not really coping with what's going on. And I think it's because of the refined foods. They're overweight. Their immune systems are not great. And I really think that that's part of the reason. I don't think there's ever one straight line, but it's definitely part of the reason. And that is within our control, is what are we eating?
Yes.
What are we putting in? What are our thoughts? What are we eating? But besides that, we've got to control what we can and let go of the rest.
Sure. The data that is coming out, and it's data because it's these are the numbers that are coming out of the States, is the patients with the comorbidities, that especially diabetes, are more inclined to have complications. But this doesn't just apply to COVID. If you get flu and end up with pneumonia and you are diabetic, your risk profile is that much higher. If you are pregnant and you're diabetic, you're high-risk pregnancy. It's not controversial. These are facts that we always knew. So looking after your health and not putting on body fat is critically important. And, I don't know if it's true anymore, but most of us don't think about pregnancy as eating for two anymore. It's about eating to nurture a baby. And the paradigm is changing. And please, God, for a lot of women who have just found themselves pregnant, this is a great opportunity to turn your life around and start making healthy changes, because you're going to want to do that for your child. So you may as well start practicing now, and this is probably the last time in your life where you're going to get decent sleep for a couple of years. So, get the sleep, look after yourself, do what it takes to get through this. You've got a responsibility, not just to yourself, but now to another human being.
Yeah. And I think from a neuro-linguistic point of view, is to also really grab this time with both hands, because it is the biggest transformation in a woman and her partner's life from conception and until the child is 1 year old. So it's really a time where you can update belief systems, where you can do things differently, because you've actually got the energy available. You might not physically feel like you've got the energy available, but the impetus is there, because there's so much transformation going on, that you are able to transform so much of your life.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity to reframe how you see yourself in the world and your identity. Because if you look at that biopsychosocial model where identity is the top of everything, is how we see ourselves in the world, who we identify as, will influence all the choices we make. And that is ultimately what it takes to change behaviors and habits, is our belief systems and our values, what we value. And pregnancy is such a good opportunity to shift our values to somebody else, something bigger than what we are. And it is a small window and it's a huge responsibility, but it can be such a gift. It's a blessing, but yeah, it's a great opportunity to do something different.
Absolutely.
Okay. Right. So, Theone, I hope that this, I'm not sure how to save these live broadcasts, but they do automatically save to the profile. This is my first Instagram live that I've hosted. So
Okay.
this will be interesting. But if anyone watching wants to connect with any of us, probably best to do so through Instagram. But I will also post your contact details up on my website, on my Facebook page, and on my social media. That if anybody, and all my pregnant ladies, I will send them your information as well. So let's get the message out there. And I'm so glad we're talking the same language, because it starts in your brain. Everything else just follows on from there. I think this is
Exactly.
great work.
Lovely. Yeah,
Okay.
wonderful. Well, it was lovely chatting to you, and we will,
And
I'm sure, connect again.
yes, thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank
Okay.
you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.